Introducing Sister Tania! She gets ready to tell her testimony on the Testify podcast. Come and check out testifypod.com for merch, media, more. And tune in to Testify.
Welcome, everybody, to the Testify podcast, where you share your personal testimony from Pentecost. Hope everybody's having a nice day today, and I'd like to introduce my co-host for today, Brother Ben.
Hello, guys. Good to be back.
Yes, sir. And I'd like to introduce our special guest for today, Sister Tania.
Hi, guys.
All right, Sister Tania, would you like to introduce yourself, your name, to the audience?
Yeah. So my name is Tania, and I am going to be 25 on Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't
it's
even
my
know
birthday
that.
on Tuesday. I grew up mainly like here in Rock Springs. Like my whole entire life has been here.
Really? Were you born in Rock Springs?
No, I was not. I was born in Juarez, Mexico, right
Oh.
on the border, pretty much.
I didn't know you were born in Mexico.
Yeah, I was born
Oh,
in
wow.
Mexico. I was brought here, by my family when I was like 4 years old. And, we had a lot of family, and we still kind of have a pretty good amount of family that lives here. So when we did come here, we were, my dad and my mom, they both were in church. I was in church my entire life. My whole entire life, I was in church. A lot of different churches. So the majority of my like childhood was in a Trinitarian church. So that's because there wasn't an apostolic church established here.
Mhm.
And I always grew up, even though we went to a Trinitarian church, my dad knew of the apostolic church from Mexico because he had gotten baptized, and my mom and everybody, they knew the truth. They knew my dad studied the Bible religiously. Like he was, and it is, like, I think he still knows a lot about the Bible
Really?
and about the truth. So,
Do you remember was it Assemblies of God, the
um,
Trinity Church, or was it some type of other denomination?
um, I think so. So we went to, I don't know, Green River. So we used to go to this church in Green River,
Mhm.
with Eliel's mom and then dad,
Oh,
like
Yeah,
forever.
that's
ago.
probably the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So around like the same organization.
Cool.
So we grew up there, and everything was fun and everything was good. Like, I had a good life growing up,
Mhm.
all was well. And my dad still had those strict rules. Like my dad didn't allow us to like paint our nails, cut our hair, wear, we'd like wear pants here and there, but we were very comfortable with the church dynamic. Like we wore skirts and dresses, and my whole entire life I wasn't allowed to cut my hair, even though I did convince my mom to cut my hair, to pierce my ears, that every once in a little while I'd paint my nails, things like that. But as then a pastor from Utah came down and knew my parents. And they were apostolic, so we established a Spanish apostolic church here in about, I don't even know when, but
How old are you?
I was about like 9 maybe at the time, because I want to say
So
9,
like around 20 years ago. I mean, not 20 years ago.
like
Yeah,
a
I know.
few.
Like
It's been a
13 years
few-
ago.
Yeah, it's been a few years for sure. It's been 16 years, I guess.
been a
Think
while.
so. Yeah. So, this is kind of when things, were good. Like I was at a apostolic church. It's a little bit different than the like full on Pentecostal apostolic church, that we have here.
Yeah, I've noticed the differences too.
Yeah. So we wore, we still had the, similar, similar doctrine, I guess I should say. Um, and so I grew up in that my whole entire life. I was baptized when I was 14 in the truth. I was, in the apostolic church. Um, but my life kind of started getting a little crazy about 2009. So my mom, my mom and my dad, my birth mom and my dad, um, you know, where I thought everything was so good. I thought I was living the best life. I had a happy family. All was doing well. I hung out with cousins and everything like that. And I feel like my mom found out that she was pregnant with Brian, my youngest brother, and later she had a lot of complications throughout her pregnancy, a lot of pain and things like that. And so we went about, the doctors were like, oh, it's, because you're pregnant, things come and go with that. So, um, so she was eventually diagnosed with cancer, with colon cancer. And, she did chemotherapy and, we prayed for her and things like that. And
Was
no,
Brian still in the womb
no,
when that happened?
so, no.
Was that
So,
after?
yeah, after. Because then she wasn't pregnant. Then the doctors couldn't say, oh, it's because you're pregnant. It's because you're pregnant. So then, they diagnosed her with colon cancer. And, she did chemotherapy and that was rough, like on our family. She had to go to Utah every so often. She was always in Utah. Sometimes we would go to Utah. And it was hard to see someone go through. I don't know if anybody has, had family member with cancer, but having to see somebody go through cancer and chemotherapy is like super, super, super hard. It is hard to see just the way that chemotherapy kind of kills you at the same time that it's trying to heal you. It's killing you. So that was hard to see. But, my mom was like killer. Like she was killer. Like she still did things with us and she'd still try to gather all of us cousins and family members and like, let's go to the park, let's go to the lake. And she would still try to, live her best life, the less, whatever she could.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was clean, she didn't have to do chemotherapy. They told her that, that all was good. And, we were okay. We were like, yay, she didn't have to do anything anymore. And, but then after a little while, like I said, Brian was still young. So I want to say, got to a point where cancer came back and it was, even stronger. And so she still had to continue to do chemotherapy. And eventually, time came to pass and she passed away in 2012. And so that was hard on my family because there was still four of us. There was four kids. My brother was the oldest. He was 16, probably like 16 maybe. He was 16. I was 12. My sister was like 11. And we had my little baby brother, he was 3. So, and my dad. So he was a single father, he didn't have a choice but to figure out how he was going to manage to raise us. I mean, he had a 3-year-old, which, if you think about it, I'm like, that's Noel. Like, that's, when my mom passed away, that's how old my little brother was. And, but we had we had a lot of help from my family members, like my aunts, and, they would come and help us and things like that. But, I feel like my dad went into like depression and, that kind of like fell on all of us. And that was hard to deal with, and still go to school and still, you know, try to like figure it out. Cause I was like, what the heck are we gonna do? Like, that was crazy. That's a whole thing on its own. But after that, then, like a year later, my dad remarried to my stepmom, and my stepmom had 2 kids that were both older than all of us, and that was that was really really something, you know, because
How much older were they than you guys?
oh boy, I think, well, my stepbrother, it was my stepsister and my stepbrother. Um, oh goodness, I think my stepbrother is like 2 years older than I am, and then my stepsister, she's probably like, I want to say like 6 years older than I am. So, so it's them two, and then they were like city folks. They were like from Denver, and we were like little town Rock Springs people. And you know, that was hard to get along with them because we were so used to our way and the way that my mom raised us, and you know the way that they were raised. And what's
Yeah.
crazy is that they were going through the same thing that we were going through.
Oh,
They
man.
lost, my stepmom lost her husband to cancer the year before, too. So
Oh,
they were
wow.
going through the same thing that we were going through. So,
Crazy.
right, right. That's, to me, I was like, that's wild, you know? Um, and that was a journey on its own, trying to, so in the end, there was 8 people trying to get to know each other, we were still grieving, you know. I feel like I definitely held um, lot of my mom with me when my stepmom came in. So me and her did not see eye to eye. We were always fighting. We just couldn't get along. I just could not see eye to eye with her. Like, I could not get along with her. But, you know, God has brought us a really long way. And
Wow.
now I can't go like a few days, you know, without being like, "Hey, mom, how are you?" Like, now we're like best friends. And I love her so much. Like, she is my mom now. And I really, really, really do appreciate her. And I love her. She is like the best thing like that has ever, you know, she's come a long way herself, and she's got a beautiful testimony herself.
It's awesome.
And yeah, but you know, things were really rough, and I was then, by the time that, you know, we were still trying to find a mixture in this blended family of ours, and I was going through, you know, just growing up in life. You know, I was in junior high, then high school, and I still was not seeing eye to eye with the family. I don't
Uh,
want to say the family, but like with my stepmom, and
I
my
have a
dad was working out of town, and
I
it
have a
was a
quick
lot.
question.
Yeah.
Throughout this whole change
Mm-hmm.
and having these two families, get closer together,
Yeah.
um, where did your guys' faith stand? Because your dad was
Yeah.
you're saying that your dad was religiously, always
Yeah.
throughout the Bible. He taught you guys throughout that. So, um, sometimes because of the circumstances in life, you don't find like uh, I feel like my parents are always like, you need to find yourself someone that thinks the same as you,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, that's right. That's like something really important. So my question pretty much is, did she kind of believe the same thing?
Yeah, so they met at a apostolic convention back in
Oh, wow.
Texas.
That's awesome.
That they kind of got introduced to each other. So she also grew up in the apostolic church. She grew up more strict than I did.
Really?
She grew up like having to wear skirt. Like, her parents made her wear skirts to church or to school. Like, she was the odd one out. You know, her whole entire family had to wear. You know, they went to church. They knew
That's
the
a
truth, and they.
I feel like that's a really good uh
Mm-hmm.
just like it's crazy how like
How
er,
God works.
yeah, just God literally brought you back,
Yeah.
from your roots and where
Yeah.
you started, which is really cool to see, because not just the fact that both of you guys were grieving at the same time,
Yeah.
but the same kind of atmosphere, the same kind of beliefs.
Yeah.
That's really awesome to hear. That's
Yeah.
cool that God would do something like that,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but at the same time, I always think, I think back and I'm like, just because you go to church doesn't mean that you have a relationship with God.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
And I feel like in that span of time, when my parents got married, my dad and my stepmom got married back in like 2014, 2013. I think it was like 2013 to like 2018. Like just in that span of like 5 years, um, 2013 to 2018. Yeah, about 5 years. Like we were going to church, but that doesn't mean that we were getting along at home, or it doesn't mean that we were, you know, having a holy life at home or anything like that. Like
Yeah,
people were
absolutely.
fighting, my parents fought, we fought in between us, like the kids. Um, sometimes we'd get along, sometimes we wouldn't get along, and that was hard.
I think sorry to cut you
No,
off,
no, no,
sorry.
you're good.
But I think it's really when it comes to believing in something as a Hispanic,
Yeah,
someone it's different because culture is completely involved with all that too.
correct.
So our culture and our beliefs and religion
Hmm.
are mixed. So it's like a mixture and a clash of like just everything,
Yeah,
you know? So I know
yeah,
what it means to, uh, my parents they grew up, and they taught us as well as they could.
yeah.
But they really, like my
The
parents really did.
morals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were strict. Not as
My,
strict as the same, the same doctrines because there was different doctrines, but they
yeah.
definitely did teach me,
Hmm.
morality, and
Yeah.
they definitely taught me stuff, so I know how it feels. But to me, it's really interesting how our culture as a Hispanic, it's so, and I'm not trying to call out my own people, but it's something that really does happen. Like
Yeah.
our culture, it going to church becomes so
It
traditionalized,
becomes a tradition. It becomes
you know,
routine, but
and we
you
could
don't
say
live
it
it outside of the church.
right,
That's
exactly.
to me, that's kind of what it was.
Everything else is hidden,
Yeah.
like our
Wow.
mistakes,
Like
everything
behind closed
else.
doors. Like I was
Yeah,
telling Isaiah earlier,
Yeah.
I was like, you don't know
Yeah.
what is behind someone's smile,
that's right. Yeah.
Like you come to church and you look dressed, and that's kind of where I was gonna go next. I was like, after when I was in high school, how I still went to church. Like
Hmm.
I still went to church, but I wasn't holy. Like by any means I wasn't holy.
By the mercy and
By
grace
the
of
mercy
God.
of God, I am where I am today, and
Amen. Me too.
I'm so happy that God has given us the opportunity and forgives us, because there are some things and sometimes in life where I'm just like, if God isn't there, like, I don't know where I'd be.
I understand.
Like, the mercy of God is so good, because, there are some things we do in our lives that just, that we just can't take back. Like, once you do something or
Yeah.
say something,
Right.
it's out there and you can't take it back. You can't just cover it up with an I'm sorry. You
No.
have to turn your life around.
And
I have a question.
No, yeah.
So, like, from hearing, growing up, like, oh, you and your family went to church a lot, right?
Yeah, like every
But
Sunday, didn't miss
my
a
question
Sunday.
is like when, like, did you behind the scenes slowly, like, kind of fade away from that with nobody, like, even knowing, and how was that?
I want to say I was good. That's a good question. So, I want to say that I was in church, and I was pretty good in church up until about till I went into high school. I think that's
Mhm.
kind of when
same.
That's when I feel like
Yeah,
high
high
school
school's
is like,
horrible.
that's dangerous.
well,
school's
that's when I
horrible.
went crazy.
It's dangerous. And it's not because high school is bad. It's just because when you go into high school, that's like you kind of letting go of your childhood and
Yeah.
learning how to become an adult. What do you want to do? And that's when all the pressure comes down on you.
I feel like people get like maturity wrong because they think being
Yes.
mature is like running
Yes.
around and with people and
Yeah.
but
And it's not. But you get that pressure. It's like, oh, what, are you going to go to college? Are you, what job are you going to have? This and that. And like, are you, you finally start getting
Yeah.
your driver's license, and you get a car, and you can, you start.
There's so much change.
There's so much change at that
Yeah.
age that it is so scary. It is so dangerous. I having the, and I feel so bad, doing what I did, in high school and things like
Mhm.
that. But I'm the person I am because of the things that I did,
Yeah.
So, I at the time, I was still a good kid.
yeah.
In
I
everybody else's
understand.
eyes, I felt like I was still a golden child. I know that with my dad. I was a golden child, I went to church, I looked the part, and I did the part. And, definitely very, very behind closed doors. I didn't do any. Like I don't think I did any like major, um, crazy stuff. Like I did drink when I was in high school. Um, Went to like a few parties, but I didn't get crazy until after like as soon as I turned 18, I moved out my house because I just could not stand the tension that was at the house and my dad, and he was never there because he always worked out of town, and that was really hard.
I don't know about you, but like my dad and my mom, tradition and culture, it's like
Yeah.
you don't leave the house until you're married. I don't know if that was like that with you,
Yeah, so my dad
but
was
that's how
yeah,
it went. That's how
yeah.
it went down with me and my dad.
How did
and
that
I
go for you?
wish I wish that I may like sometimes I do wish I'm like maybe Tania you should just stay at home, but at the same time I moved out of my house and I try to be, I try to tell my dad in a way that he would understand.
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad, I'm not leaving you. This doesn't mean like that I'm, gonna go, do anything. Like, I'm not leaving you. I said, I just can't be in this environment anymore.
Mhm.
Um, just at the house, I couldn't be with him. I couldn't be, with my stepmom because we weren't, we still weren't getting, super great along. But I still came and, I still came around the house and visited. I was living with a friend at the time, and then she moved out, and then my brother moved in, my older brother, Angel, you guys know him.
Yeah.
So I moved in, he moved in with me, and so I think that's kind of when I
Went off the rails, or
a little bit.
yeah.
I did stop going to church as frequently as I used to, or I had before. I started drinking a little bit more, going to like house parties, because then at that age, I had a lot of friends also moving out of
Yeah.
of
That's
their
just-
house, and
that's
so
just
we
how
all
it
would get
Together and
together.
have fun. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd all get
Mhm.
together, have fun. I did.
They always tell me, "When are you moving out, Ben?"
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I don't.
Don't do it.
I don't know.
Don't do it. I don't want to say don't do it, but
Yeah, for real.
just
Don't
have a
do it.
plan. Have a
Be
plan.
prepared.
Yes.
You can't
I
just
definitely was
go out like
not.
that.
I was ready. I was just leaving the house because I was tired of living there. But that's kind of when I started drinking more, and I started doing dabbling. I dabbled a little bit. I actually didn't really enjoy doing drugs that much.
Yeah.
It wasn't really my thing. Like I did it socially,
Yeah.
but I never did it like just for me. Like do it at my house by myself because I wanted
Did
to.
you want to do it like just to have that experience or like moment?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it
So
was about.
I would do it socially. So if my friends would get together,
Mhm.
I would do it with them. But like for me to go home and do it just because I wanted to, like no.
Yeah.
I'm like
You
I
weren't
have
that
other-
attached
no,
to it. Yeah.
no, I really didn't have it. Like, and so for me, that part wasn't. I say like drugs wasn't too hard to let go of. It
Yeah.
really wasn't. I was like,
That's a
it's
good
not for
thing.
me anyway.
A random question, like
Yeah.
like when you say drugs, like what do you mean?
So I wasn't too much into like anything
Crazy,
crazy.
okay.
Yeah. So I did smoke like marijuana. I did try LSD.
Yeah.
Um
Would weed make you paranoid?
no.
Because
not
I would
really.
go so paranoid, dude. I couldn't like. I actually like my brain would snap. Like, but
Start seeing things or what?
no, I would start going crazy.
We'd
like-
go to Mickey D's and
Oh, just
I
eat.
get the munchies. Yeah.
But you weren't attached to it at all. It was
No,
just like having
no.
fun with the homies.
Yeah,
Okay,
it really
I see.
was. I definitely wasn't like, I'll use that to cope with this or with that or like help that. I was like, nah. I said I did that more socially, like
Yeah.
just to hang out with everybody and be cool and but like to do it by myself to help me with anxiety or depression or
So-
never really, that wasn't my style.
As a-
But I
you
did
know,
drink and I still I did it we'll go into that. Go ahead, Ben.
As a follow-up question, from what Brother Isaiah was saying, so, you said that those type of drugs wasn't kind of coping for you,
No.
Was there anything that you did use to cope for what had happened?
Yeah. So
Do you want to take us a little bit deep into that?
Yeah. So I think vaping for me was one of the hardest things that I had to let go of. And I still struggle with it.
You know what's crazy is I feel like there's like meth and heroin addicts that could beat that, but they can't beat nicotine addiction.
Nicotine
wow.
is so hard.
Yeah.
So hard. And some people, that's not their thing. And
It's
they can
something
just
to
let
play
it,
with, man.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I literally soon as I woke up, I'd hit it. Soon as last thing before bed,
yeah.
I'd hit it. First thing in the morning, that's what I'd look
And if
for.
you didn't have it, then
it
you'll
was
tear walls
wild,
apart.
yeah. It was. That was kind of like the biggest thing for me. Like I always had it with me. That was like the biggest thing I had to let go of.
How was it like? How was your experience of letting go with it?
That's so funny. Cause I remember in your testimony, Isaiah, how you had your Bible. That's how I was.
Yeah.
So I started coming to this church, and I would read. I was reading my Bible, but I'd also be hitting my vape. Not gonna lie, I'd be reading my Bible, I'll hit my vape. I'm like, oh, that's good.
The crazy thing is, I'll tell people what to do. I was the biggest hypocrite.
Yes, that's how I felt, and that's that's how I felt when I first started coming to this church. Because
Yeah.
I'd be like,
Wow.
I'd be trying to change myself, and
Yeah.
I'm still working on myself. And that's why I try to, tell people, I'm like, listen, I said, just come.
Yeah.
I said, don't look at me. I said, I'm not the best example right now. I said,
Yeah.
I'm still working on myself. I'm still, working to better myself.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not perfect. I'm still going to fail, and I'm
Yeah.
still failing every day. There's something that I'm still working on. There's something I'm
Yeah.
still trying hard to beat, you know? Like I was telling Isaiah, before we started the podcast a little bit, how, sometimes memories came back on my phone, and I was like, man, I said, look at those times, it was pictures of me when I was drinking, or when I was already drunk, or whatever. And I was just sometimes, and life hasn't been too wonderful, I want to say. There are some times where you're going through something, and you want to go back. You're like, maybe just one drink, or maybe just one more hit, or one more puff, or da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then I think about it. I'm like, what if I do? What if I go do that? And I'm like, how are you going to feel afterwards, Tania? How are you,
Horrible.
just thinking about the future consequences after you do that. So, I'm so thankful that I haven't gone down that road. To me, the biggest kind of thing was when I was going through my trying to finish my custody with my son. I was like, the worst thing, I was like, if they can't take away, my son, but my brain just kind of went there. I was like, if he does that, I said, I will go off the rails. If I lose him, that'll be it. I'm done for.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to live for. That's what I was thinking in my
Right.
head.
As
Yeah.
you mentioned this before,
Yeah.
and I never knew this, but you mentioned something about Noel.
Yeah.
Would you like to share on here?
Oh yeah, of course. So, I had not done. I kind of chilled out after. I was in a committed relationship. I was 2-3 years in, and I had calmed down. I wasn't doing crazy drugs at the time anymore, but I was drinking, and I was still vaping and things like that. And I had turned 21, and I was ready to party. I was ready to, just have fun. I
Go
just turned
nuts.
21. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was I just turned 21. I was ready to, go out and experience life and go do all the things. And, granted, I'm so glad that I didn't go super, super crazy, but I did, a few months later. So I turned 21 in March. By June, so it was right before summer hit,
Yeah.
we went on this last, trip to Florida. So that was probably the last wildest thing that I did, I guess. was taking a trip down to Florida. I came back and then I found out I was pregnant. And as soon as I found out, my life completely changed.
Yeah.
As soon as I found out that I was pregnant, I think to me that was like the biggest eye opener, because it's like your life is over. I don't want to say your life is over, as a mother, like your life doesn't end as soon as you have kids.
Right. Yeah.
But
Well,
your
the life that you knew before.
the life that you knew before, you can't go back to that life that you had. And, I had to start thinking, I'm like, okay, now I have to take care of my body, because not only is it my body, but I'm creating life.
Yeah.
And so I think, getting pregnant was probably the best thing that could have happened to me at that time.
Yeah.
So I'm so thankful for my little Noelle, my little baby. Because I feel like if I wouldn't have gotten pregnant, I probably would have gone like crazy, like would have been drinking, would have been, probably still vaping,
You got in a
probably
rabbit
still.
hole.
Yeah, I think so. And, with, being pregnant, then you have to take care of yourself. You can't eat certain things. You can't do a lot of stuff. You can't do drugs. So yeah, I had to like cold turkey quit vaping because I had a baby, and it was hard. So hard. Especially because like when you're pregnant, you get cravings. So that was hard. So throughout the entire pregnancy, I didn't drink, I didn't vape. Even afterwards, didn't drink, didn't vape for a little while. And then, once I, all was well with Noel. He was wonderful. He came out beautifully. And, then it kind of goes into then, I didn't realize it at the time, but now looking back, I'm like, I might have had like postpartum depression. And I don't know if you guys know anything about that, but.
No clue.
No clue.
I never heard that word.
So I'll just kind of like explain it to, all the guy viewers out there, or even the girls who, don't have not had a baby or anything like that.
Wait, what's it called? I don't mean to cut it off because this is getting good.
Yeah.
But what's it called? Game night's like in 4 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I think
Cool.
Ben has to be there for sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're gonna go back to this.
Okay.
So,
See you guys in a little bit.
and we're back from game night, and just hand the mic straight to Sister Tania.
Okay, so I was explaining postpartum depression. For you guys that don't know, postpartum depression. So when you're pregnant, so you're full of hormones. You're full of all the good stuff, because you're creating a baby. So after you give birth, basically all your hormones drop, like just crash. And so you're like basically on a high the entire pregnancy, the entire time. Then you give birth and it crashes, crashes. So that's when, that's when you kind of hear those crazy stories of like moms going AWOL, killing their babies, or, doing crazy things, because it's so true.
I actually heard about that.
I've never heard about that.
No. Well, there's
not about that, like right after they killed their babies or something like that.
Because and postpartum depression, it's different for everybody. For me personally, I feel like I thought I had a really good, a good time, and but I feel like my postpartum depression didn't happen till later. Some people, it happens, for a year, 2 years afterwards, or whatever the case is. But I feel like now looking back at it, I feel like I definitely needed help, or I needed, support that I didn't reach out at the time. So,
were you suicidal?
No.
Or is it just like anxiety and depression?
It was like anxiety and depression that I tried to push that down.
Like panic attacks and all that kind of stuff. Would you get panic attacks?
No, I wouldn't get panic attacks, but I couldn't really be by myself. I didn't know how to be by myself.
Would you like just drive yourself crazy? Or
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
I really I was like, I just needed someone. I just needed support. I just needed somebody there. Like, I just, it was so hard. It was so hard. And I'm so happy that, um, that I found God, and I'm actually have a relationship with him now, than when I did before. But that definitely drove me, to get back to drinking. So it was about a year. Noel had turned like a year old, and that's kind of when I, started kind of just feeling down. And that's kind of when I started, I picked up vaping again, and I picked up drinking again. I never did any other drugs, or anything crazy like that, but started drinking and I started vaping again, and that comes with its own, demons and own battles on its own. So that kind of drove me to make some really not so great decisions in my life.
Were you addicted, or was it just like you just did it to
I did it
put the edge
too.
off?
Yeah.
Oh,
To
wow.
just kind of escape from my problems. If I was drunk, I wasn't myself. If if I had a drink, nothing else really mattered to me. Nothing else really, I wanted to find an escape.
Did you feel numb?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to.
I just didn't care. I didn't. And I got to a point where I think after a year, I think it got to a point where I was really bad into the depression that I didn't want to be a mom. I resented my son. I was so tired of being a mom. I just wanted to get back to my life, and I hated it. I hated being a mom and always having to clean and change diapers, and I hated it so much. I just wanted to be like everybody else who didn't have kids and could do whatever they wanted to do. And that was so hard for me. So I did go to drinking, and I did, you know, I did. I was vaping, and that didn't really help. That didn't really help at all. It just made me make terrible decisions.
Yeah.
And so one of my decisions, obviously led to, the just breaking of my family. And so I'm not with, Noel's dad. And so that just led me down a really bad path. I was really low at the time, and I still drank and I still vaped, and it was, I just kept making bad decisions while I was drinking, and I hated drinking. I hated the feeling afterwards. It felt like, it didn't do anything. It didn't solve any of my problems. So, then I was still trying to go to church and trying to do good, and I was going to my other church, my apostolic church, the other one, and I was praying at the altar, and I was giving it I could not go back. I could not fix what I had done, and it's still to this day it's heartbreaking to me because that's something I'm gonna have to carry for the rest of my life. That I broke my family, and I broke I broke people's hearts, and I hurt people's feelings and lives, and I just that's something I have to carry for myself, and I'm working on forgiving myself for doing that, and eventually asking for forgiveness. I'm just that's still a work in progress. I feel like I'm still asking God to reveal to me when the good time is, because people still have to heal, and I have to heal myself.
Yeah.
And due to, being such, they say when you hit rock bottom, you have nowhere else to go but up.
That's
And
right.
I feel like that to me, that's kind of what did it, is the breaking of my family. And I hate that I had to go through that I did that, for me to finally get a relationship with God. But what was go ahead.
Sorry, were you when we finally talked about coming to church?
Hmm.
Was that you're at your
I
lowest?
was at my lowest.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for the
So
ones who
I
don't,
was, yeah, so I was, that's where I'm going
Cool.
next is, so I was, uh, I moved out. I had to move out of my, the house, and I ended up going to I was living with my brother and my sister, but it wasn't working out because I had a son. And so my aunt, she helped me out, and I was living with her at the time. And I was just like, so in my church, we didn't have a pastor. But we had someone like come in to preach us and stuff like that. But it's not the same. You really do need a pastor in your
Yeah.
life.
that's right.
And
It's true.
I was just so tired. I was so done. I was like, nothing. I said, no drugs. Like, well, I wasn't doing drugs, but I was like, no amount of alcohol, no amount of, anything else. I'm like, I was reading my Bible, and I was just like, what is the answer? Like, I was in such desperation. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm so tired of this. And then I was like, you know what? It was like in June, I had reached out. This is like the best thing that ever happened. And I am so grateful for it. So me and Ben, we known each other in high school. We didn't even we weren't really friends. Like
No?
we just knew each other because
Well,
yeah.
I've known Flora, so your sister.
Yeah, he knew my sister because they
We were in
had
the
like
same
class,
same
right?
class. Yeah, I think she was 1 year older than I
Yeah,
was.
she isn't a year older than you.
But when I was a freshman, Flora and I had what's it called, a class together. I can't even remember what it was, but it
I
was
think it was like English or something.
yeah, it was an English class or something
Yeah.
like that. But Flora and I had that class together, and maybe in between classes or something, I met Tania, and
Yeah,
I've
'cause
always known.
I'd go visit my sister and I'd,
Mhm.
meet her friends and
Yeah.
stuff like
But
that.
I've always known that Tania was Flora's sister.
Was this in college?
No, this
Or
was
high
in high
school?
school.
High school.
High school.
Dude, this
I'm
was
sorry.
like 2015,
Yeah.
16.
So he
Wow,
was
it
like
was a
a
long time.
freshman. I was
it was
probably like
like
a
15 years
sophomore,
old.
junior, probably.
Mhm.
Wow.
I'm a few years older than Ben.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, pretty much that's how we've always known each other.
yeah.
And then there was this one day, I don't even remember. I went to go bowling with my friends,
Yeah,
and you were there
yeah.
with your friends. And then
Yeah.
like I saw her, and I was like, "Hey, I know you."
Yeah, and so
And
we
then we
just
said
said
hi,
hi.
And then
because you were with the youth kids
oh, I was with the youth kids. So
at your old church.
at our old church, yeah, I had the youth kids, and we had a bowling night,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was super fun. And we saw Tania and whoever else was there. I can't
Yeah.
remember, but we said hi, and that was the last time we talked for like
Yeah.
2-3 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I
think we only said hi to each other if we ever saw each other at like Walmart. Or,
We were
like
just,
it
like,
was the
waving,
most
that was
random.
it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the most random places. It was just like hi, but I do remember like throughout that whole transition, I remember that you like had it like a Noelle, and I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
I didn't even think anything of it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, she's living life. She has a kid
Yeah.
now. Like you after high school, you're like you don't know what's gonna
You
happen
don't know
with
what-
anybody else.
yeah.
But yeah, we've kind of known each other for
So
years.
did you invite her?
No.
Or- oh, really?
So
No.
I had reached out to Ben. It was
Mhm.
Tuesday.
Mm.
It was a Tuesday, which is so
this was
crazy.
so
to me.
crazy. Yeah,
What?
this
I
was
love
crazy.
this. I love this
I wanna hear
story.
this.
This is like the most beautiful thing that I feel like has ever happened. So I had reached out to Ben and I was like, hey, Ben, because he'd post like pictures every once in a blue moon of like
Yeah.
him at church or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, Ben, I texted him, I was like, hey, what church do you go to? I was like, are you still in church? What church
Wow.
do you go to? Oh, he's like, oh, I'm going to this church, the Rock Tabernacle. And I was like, what the heck? And I was like, oh, man. I said, but I had a feeling. I was like, I'm pretty sure he's like, Trinitarian. So I was like, okay, so what denomination is that? He's like, oh, it's Pentecostal. I was like, no way. I was like, it was so good. And this
How
was
did
like
you were you just
I
did
was
you
like,
just
I was
know?
low. Well,
How did you like? I mean, obviously we don't talk for years, but how did you just come to
I
the
fe-
idea?
I Facebook stalked you.
Oh. Dude, you know what's crazy? That profile picture that I had on there.
It's right here.
Yeah, the one that I had on there, dude. It was like I debated on whether posting it or not for
Yeah.
for some odd reason because it was
Yeah.
me. It's me in a tux,
Yeah.
and I don't know why. I just didn't want people to see me like.
At the church.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
weird, but it wasn't because of the like.
To be like Oh, suit and tie, like show offy.
Yeah,
or like,
I didn't want
okay.
it to be like that, but I
Yeah.
also didn't want my family like, oh, now Ben's posting stuff about his church again now,
Yeah.
you know. So I was
Yeah.
like, you know what, forget it, and I posted it, and then that's when you told me when you came, you were like, I saw you in a tux, and I was like, maybe he goes to church. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
but you had seen the
Yeah.
some of the videos and the stuff that we were doing.
Yeah, because I
Cool.
think I had Rosie.
Mm-hmm.
She, was going to the church, and so I was like, what kind of church is this? And then I was like, oh, it's because it's Trinitarian. I was like, I said, I'm not going that way. I said, I'll just stick where I'm at right now,
Mm-hmm.
It's what I can do. But at the same time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to Ben, kind of see what his kind of what's going on. So I reached out to Ben, and he was telling me, oh, it's a Pentecostal church, and he started sending me all the information, like,
Yeah.
oh, it's here at Oxford, and
I still remember because you were like, I'm looking for a church, and I was like, come tonight.
you
I
did.
was like, you gotta come tonight. I was like, I don't know why, and I don't know how you texted me or how, like, I don't know how this works out, but you gotta do it now. I was like, you just gotta come.
Well, yeah, because it was like 6:00.
Yeah, it was literally
It
like
was 6:00, and
yeah.
you're like, Tanya, there's service tonight at 7, and I was like, okay, sure. And I was
you had like an hour to get
I had
ready.
an hour.
Wait, you went that day?
Yeah,
That day.
Wow,
single-
that's amazing.
And
Really?
I texted him like at 6. I texted him at like 6:00, and he was like, "Oh, we have service at 7. You should come." And I was like, "Okay, well, we'll see." Because then it was like, because my aunt lives on Elk Street here too,
Mhm.
So I was like, "Oh, well, it's just down the street." I said, "Okay." I was like, it was the longest hour. Like, I got ready.
I felt
I
that.
I got
right
ready.
before coming here, I felt the same way.
I got ready, and then I was like, I was like, yes, no, yes. I felt like the Grinch, He's like, yes, no, yes, no. And so
Same thing.
and so I came, and I was like, oh, like, this is a little weird.
What was
But
the first thing?
it was just awkward because the only person I knew was Ben. I was like, I don't know anybody else.
Did you come with Noel that day?
I did.
What was
I
the first
did.
thing you like noticed? Because
Well, I think it was just like I just felt like a peace. Like,
Wow.
everyone was just everyone came up and said hi to me. Everyone, reached out to me. I remember,
No, it's crazy. Like, those were the days. Like, it stopped quite now, but I need to pick it up again. But man, I was soul winning. I was trying my best to get as much people in, and like I remember, I just try like just hey, we got to get people in the church,
yeah.
and I'd invite anyone I'd saw. I'd
Yeah.
just do as much as I could, and then like for you, you just texted me, so I was like, let's go. Like I didn't even have to do anything,
Yeah.
But it was crazy to see that you came that same day.
Well, it was crazy to me too, and the fact that I stayed.
That same the same hour, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
He
you
was, he was
Because it
from
was
6 to
within
7.
an hour.
you felt like a peace.
Oh yeah.
Did you?
Like-
Okay, because I remember the first day, you felt the Holy Ghost, right?
Oh yeah. I got the Holy Ghost the first day
Yeah.
that I prayed.
She
Oh,
prayed
wow,
through.
dude.
That first day
I-
she came
I
back.
That's
was
amazing.
so, and the thing is, I was so desperate. I was so like, I was reading
Thank
my
you,
Bible.
Jesus.
Was that the first time you ever prayed through?
No.
No.
Oh, really?
So I have the apostolic background.
Oh, wow.
So I knew the Holy Ghost. I know speaking in tongues. And like, to me, this church was like not, if you come like from a
Not like
different,
that dramatic to see.
no, because I'm like, I grew up running the aisles. I grew up praising Jesus like the way that we do.
Mhm.
But I grew up not having a relationship with God.
Oh, wow.
That's
see.
the difference. That's the key that you need.
Literally.
Like, because
Yeah.
I grew up, I'm like, I'm worshiping and I'm praying. And
Yeah.
then, and you go home and you ain't got it.
It was like just tradition.
Yeah, it was tradition. It was routine. It was, another Sunday, another whatever, midweek service. But the difference is, now having a relationship with God is the difference. That's
Game
what
changer.
is like
We're all
the real deal.
we're all guilty though. Like for real. Like me too. Like I've been a pastor kid all my life,
Hmm.
and you kind of kind of were too as well, you know.
Well, I
So
wasn't a pastor's kid, but I grew up in the church with
right.
a strict dad.
I thought you said something about your dad preaching too, or was he just someone that would preach
Yeah, he was
sometimes?
he was like second in command,
Oh, okay, that
kind
makes
of.
sense.
Yeah,
But like,
but
it's so
close enough.
yeah. When you're growing up in church, it's so easy. It really is so easy for it to become a tradition.
Yeah.
And until like you really fall down, scrape your knees, and smack your face on the floor, you don't. It's like you how
Like,
else are you
that's
supposed to
the
get back
biggest
up?
reality check. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think it's really cool to see that you're able to. uh, I mean, God was able to had mercy and was like, you know what, we're gonna somehow Tanya's just gonna give right back up,
Yeah.
and it's really cool to see your transition because I still remember the first day that you came and how much things changed and
Yeah,
how
I
much
was
things were
I was
working out
so
and looking
broken
out
when
for
I
you.
came. I just remember
You know what's crazy though?
being
I
at the
didn't.
lowest.
Dude, I didn't
At
really
my
notice.
lowest.
Yeah, for me, I don't know if Isaiah remembers, but I didn't really notice that you were like that. So I'm sure you held that in really well.
And I was just telling Isaiah
Yeah.
that too. I was like, I am, and I hate that I am this way, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm thankful that, my life could be in shambles or it's broken, but I will still put on a good face.
Right?
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
still smile and I will still,
Mhm.
give it my best. I said, I'm
Yeah.
not going to let, what's going on at home disrupt my, my conversation with you
Right.
or, make
Yeah.
make the vibe
When
off or,
yeah,
just come
absolutely.
in with the terrible,
But yeah, what? So you said you were very desperate to come back to church and to just try to feel something and get back up.
yeah.
What was there something pastor said or preached or what was the thing that really was like click and you were like, oh man, do you remember?
Um,
At least
like that
pertaining to coming to church here.
that day or just like since coming here?
Since coming here, what was that change? Because you said, oh, I mean, the things that pastor teaches, you were like, oh, I was never taught that, or I never saw it that way. You know what I'm saying? So like, what was the thing that really made you click and be like, okay, this is the church I'm staying at?
So living the truth, like living what you preach.
Mhm.
I was like, wow.
Mhm.
So like then I came like Sunday, I think. And then after like evening service, everybody used to hang out at pastor's house and I
Yeah.
missed that a little bit because that's kind of when I had the one-on-one in the doors. Like, that's when you're in
Yeah.
pastor's house.
Yeah.
Like that's when you see like who's
What's
working
there?
and like
What's
I'm
going
like
on? Who's
then
there?
like when you're in someone's house, you kind of know a little bit more about them.
That's true.
You're like, okay,
The
okay.
familiarity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Dude,
how they
pastor-
live. And
Pastor's an
so-
open book, though.
Yes.
You
And
can't-
that's like the best thing ever. Like I would
Yeah.
ask him all these questions and he would back it up.
Mm.
It wasn't opinion. It wasn't oh well, this is what I think. It's like this is what the Bible says, this is what we do.
And
Yeah.
then
And
he
it
wouldn't even
wasn't-
just say that once. Like
No.
he'd be like, "This is what the Bible says here, here, and here."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll back it up multiple
yeah.
times.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the law. Like where 2 or 3
And
witnesses
still
are
to this
established.
day, I'm always like, okay, hey, pastor, why we do this? Or like, I asked him, like, even if we were like, we'd go to the park,
Mhm.
y'all were playing volleyball, and I'm over here, I'm like interviewing pastor. I'm like, okay, so why do we do this? Okay, my church said this, and this is how I grew up. And so I would like, pastor would like, boom, 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 get out his phone. He's all boom, 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 boom. Here it says. I'm like, oh my goodness. So now, and I'm actually living to what they, not just
Not just like
saying it, but at least they're like living it, you
Right.
know? Because this is kind of what I still have, and it goes for, all the churches,
Mhm.
but I've noticed for this church and all of the sister churches that I've, all the visiting churches that have came, I was like, dang, I'm like, these guys are it.
Mhm.
I said they don't go like they don't go after service, and like one thing for me that I loved and I still love is that if how I don't want to say because not everybody is obedient to the best, but a lot
Right.
of people do listen and care what pastor says, and I feel like a lot of the churches that I went to in my Spanish church, preacher would preach one thing, but everyone kind of was like, do whatever you want.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
like the, long hair, it's like, it doesn't mean long hair. It means don't cut your hair. Don't dye your hair. And I'm like, okay. And they live it,
Yeah.
Don't wear makeup. Don't, put nail polish or do your nails, because that's all vanity. That's all, that's not natural. And they live that. That's the difference. I'm like, they don't go home and,
And the thing is, we become so much more noticeable.
we stick out like sore thumbs.
Like a sore
To
thumb.
me,
Yeah.
was another thing that was super hard. I grew up my entire life going to church wearing a skirt. I have lots of skirts, lots of dresses. So for me, coming here, I was like, this is like, I have skirts, I have dresses. My whole life I've grown up wearing skirts and dresses. That wasn't a big issue for me. The issue was going home, going to work, going to the store wearing a skirt, living outside the church, still showing that relationship with God. And it's not just, like, it was hard. It was so hard at first because I did not.
Same thing.
I'd go home and I'd put on pants. I'd go to work, put on pants. But now I feel so weird. I don't even own pants anymore. Like,
thank you, Jesus. That's awesome.
they're like gone. And it took me a while to do that because I hated it. But now I feel weird.
Oh, I
so
feel that.
weird.
Like when I started coming to church, man, like I would dress up just for people to see me. Like it's just how I like to look good. And I would say, no, I like to look good for myself, but I don't think that was really true because, I always cared about what people thought about me.
Yeah.
So anywhere if I went to the store, I know I had to smell good. I had to look good for somebody. And it was never myself because I never thought I actually looked good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I started coming to church. I figured out about the standards. I figured out about how like what the Bible really says and this and that. And people could call it legalism as much as they want.
I
But
see it
it's
as a
not.
blessing.
It is a
'cause-
blessing because it's holiness.
Well, because
And everything makes sense when you do it. When you live that life, when you live that
When
holy life,
you read it
makes
for
sense.
yourself.
Well,
Like, not just
absolutely.
like how pastor says, go home and read it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, literally go home and read it for
Man,
yourself.
I remember I told God like I need your reproof and I need your conviction, and like I probably shouldn't have man, that was a bold thing to say because man, I felt convicted.
Mm-hmm.
Like I used to wear jewelry a lot. I used to wear clothes that would show a lot of my body, and
Yeah.
and like I know I'm a dude, but like there was things I would do on purpose to show off. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Because
I mean, I would go to the gym. I would do everything I could, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing for a guy. Like, whether they want to admit it or not. And I'll admit it, I'll be transparent.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And some guys don't how do you say struggle with that, but some guys do. I
Yeah.
don't like now. It's really cool. I don't really care about how
Yeah.
like my hair.
See, and
Looks, I don't care
that's how
about how
I am
I
too.
look.
Like,
It's
like
really cool.
even today, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Today, we had that big old snowstorm, and I had to go to work. And I told my brother, I said, "Oh, I don't know." I said, "I think today I'm gonna have to wear sweats." I said, "I'm gonna have to wear sweats to work today, my boots, because the snow is just nasty outside." I had sweats on, and I just wear sweats in my house, but that's. But even then, I'm like, I not really anymore. But nope. I went back and I changed and I put on a skirt and I was like, this just feels so much more comfortable. So,
That's cool.
I leave the house and I don't wear makeup anymore, which that was kind of a hard thing to kind of give up also. But I don't. And it's like just so, I'm just okay with it now. If,
Yeah.
as you begin the change, the conviction starts, it's hard.
When
It's so hard.
I don't know if you noticed, but when you start changing those things when it's not just for you and you start doing it for God, everything changes.
Hmm.
Because it's like,
Yeah.
I want to please him in every way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, like I go back to people saying stuff about it. It's like they don't really see the other perspective. Like, what if God really doesn't
It's
like
so
that?
beautiful.
And it's gorgeous because it's like how Brother Nathaniel Christian said, he treats us like his wife. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what does that really mean? Is just it's really cool to see how much we've changed so far,
Yeah.
in that way. So like you said you were desperate. Things you started coming. You saw the change. You said the difference was living your life like
Yeah.
how you really how you really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Um, what were some other than the stuff you've already said? What's another struggle that it was really difficult for you to kind of get past?
Um, is So when I first started coming here, I was bouncing back and forth between my old church and this church. Um, and the more I came to this church, the more that I asked pastor questions. I was like, what am I doing? I said, I need to, and pastor told me a few times, not, I want to say a few times, like he's, always told me, but he did tell me like, one or two times, he's like, you got to be here or there, period.
That's
And I
right.
was like, okay. And so I was just like, things are not getting better by me doing this. I'm getting exhausted. I'm getting tired. And like another kind of cool testimony that I want to get into, that I wanted to talk about was I used to sing in the choir in my old church.
Oh yeah.
And I love to sing. I
Mhm.
love to sing. But it got to a point where it was almost prideful,
Yeah.
I wasn't singing to glorify God. I was singing because I thought I had such a beautiful voice. And, and God will humble you, God will be like,
That's right.
no. And so,
I gave you that.
yeah, and he could
Mhm.
take it away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just like did not feel comfortable, singing anymore. And I was just like, this just isn't it. Like, I can't
Mhm.
do this if I'm not okay. If I'm not right, I should not be singing.
Mhm.
But there wasn't a pastor in my old church to be like, to put everything in order, so they'd be like, oh, come and sing. And I'm like, I was like, I don't feel comfortable, you know? And so when I switched over to this church, I didn't ask to get into the choir. That was not a priority of mine. I said, I want a relationship. Like, I don't want any, like, I don't want to be in charge of anything. Like, don't put me in charge of like anything. I said, let me just get on this path and let me create a foundation. I said, that's what I want. I just want a foundation in a relationship with God. I said, more than anything, that's what I want. That's all I desired at that time. And I kept coming to this church. And then once I was like more established in this church, Pastor and Nina were like, oh, you should sing. And I was like, oh, I'm not ready. And they would tell me like, Tania, you should sing. I was like, no, I'm not ready. So I didn't want to say, I was like, no, I'm not ready. I'm nowhere near perfect. I still have so much that I'm working on and trying to clean up, and I can't sing. And the new year came around, and I spent the new year kind of by myself. By myself with my son. My brother was out of town. My sister, she's obviously she's deployed.
Mhm.
I don't have any family here that invited me to hang out with them, or anything. And you guys were all at Avalanche, so I literally just spent the time at my house. But for an hour, like from 11 to 12, to receive the new year, I was like, I prayed. And my
Wow.
son was there, and I just prayed for that entire hour till I received the new year, and I started getting all the
Awesome.
text messages and
Mhm.
everything. And I was like, God, I said, let this be your year. I said, I'm done. I said, I am giving it all to you. And then Pastor, they created the conference group chat for the worship team.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh boy, I was like, Pastor, are you sure? I was like, do you want to pray about this? I said, are you sure you want me to sing?
That's funny.
And I was like, I was still in denial. I really was. I was like, I was like, I don't think I'm ready. I don't want to, I don't want to be the thing that stops, you know, that's like the disturbance. I don't want to be that person. But I was there at every practice, and I actually, there was, I think, a Tuesday or something like that, a service that I was like, okay, God, And then we had just put out, like, I think they had just put out all the colorful mics, that we have, right?
Well, the thing is, what's it called? Well, tell the story first, and I'll share my part.
So then at I was praying a Tuesday, and I saw all the mics there, and I saw the different colors. And at my old church, I had a yellow mic that I chose. I chose my yellow mic at my old church. And I was like, I didn't tell nobody. I didn't tell Nina, pastor, nobody. Nobody even knew that. They knew I sang in my other church, but I didn't like go into detail. Oh, I have a yellow microphone. Da, da, da. But I was like, God, I was like praying, and I was like, God, I said, if you really, really, really want me to sing at this conference, I said, let me get the yellow mic. So let me get the yellow mic.
So
That's crazy.
And there are 9 colors, by the way.
how that happened is I made I at first made a list of 10 people, how much people are in it.
Yeah.
And then
Like 10.
what's called, I went to Nina because she was running it, she was leading it. I'm like, what do you think? And she switched your mic to the yellow one.
That's wild.
That was one of her choices. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, this works like this. And I just then I just posted it.
Yeah.
But it just happened.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that,
Wow. That's
Because I'm
awesome.
like, there were 9 different colors, and I was like, in yellow. And there was how many of us? There was
There's 10 of us.
There's 10 of
Yeah,
us?
because we needed one extra mic.
Yeah,
Is
so.
that crazy?
That's crazy.
So that, I was like, there's no. And I was like, and then I saw the, text message that went out, and it was like,
That's
Tania's
funny.
yellow. I was like, no way.
That was the
I said,
first
I
name, too.
can't. It was.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding. I was like, God, you're so funny.
I know.
said, oh, you
I didn't
think
even know that
you're-
either
No.
until I think
And I didn't
Pastor
tell
told
him.
me about it.
Well, and the thing is, I let it slide for a little bit. And then I was like, hey, Pastor, I was like, did you by chance? And he's like, no. I had no idea. And then that's when he kind of made me share a little bit about it. And I was like, that's wild. And, I went to all my and man, was I attacked during the whole conference. People were getting sick, and there was
yeah.
so
Dude,
much
all
sickness.
of
There's
us
so
got
much,
so attacked. It was bad.
It was wild. And, I was like, no, I said, I'm going to keep going to practices. Even if I'm late, I don't care. I was listening to all the songs, and I was giving it my all. And, and I was able to sing for the conference, and conference was amazing. And,
Yeah.
I was able to bring, some visitors and things like that. And I just, and I'm just so thankful for this church and for Pastor and for where I'm at right now, because, all of your failures and all of the things that you have done make you the person that you are. If I would have never gotten into drugs or alcohol, maybe I wouldn't have done this or done that, or, I just wouldn't be in the place that I'm at right now. And I'm just so thankful. And, I just hope that more people, that I keep bringing more people in. And I'm just, I'm not perfect by any means. And I'm never going to be perfect. And that's something I have to kind of tell myself, remind myself, I guess, that when I do fail, that's not the end. Just ask for forgiveness, And
Just get back up.
yeah, as a mother, I have put a lot of it into perspective. If my son does something, am I going to hold him accountable forever? No. I'm like, he will say, Mama, I love you. And I'm like, oh, okay, sorry, I love you too, baby. And, that's how God kind of sees, granted, he has even more love than a mother for her child,
Yeah,
He has
So true.
more love for everybody. It's not just for one person. It's not just because, you play the guitar so beautifully, or, it's not just because you do great things.
Yeah.
God loves every single one of us.
He's just that good.
Yeah, he really is just
It's
that
never-
good.
It's never about the talent either. He'll
No.
love you because of your failures. It's
Oh,
the,
yeah.
Yeah, it's the fact
that's the
that
beauty
you,
of God.
it's the fact that you go back to him,
Yeah.
When my son gets hurt, he comes crying to me, and I was like, wow. I said, that's how, okay, we get hurt, or we fall, or we do whatever. We need to go crying back to the one who is going to heal us, the one
That's
who is going
facts.
to
Give us comfort.
comfort us, because he is in charge of literally everything.
Well, Can we do one more question?
Oh, dude.
Cool.
No problem.
Awesome. For all the young moms out there, you say that it was really hard for you to transition to
Mhm.
really realize that you're a mom.
Yeah.
And where you are now, I know you said you're learning.
Yeah.
And things
'Cause it's hard.
change. Absolutely. I couldn't imagine. I
Oh, yeah.
mean, there's younger moms and there's other moms that, but
Yeah.
what would you tell them? And how would you tell them, like, to just keep going? Because you have a powerful testimony,
Mhm.
especially for people that can, be in your shoes.
Mhm.
What would you tell them, and why would you tell them what you're gonna tell them?
Just to remember that everything in life is replaceable, and you can't take anything. As a mother, you can't take anything with you to heaven, but you can take your kids to heaven. You can create that path and you can create that foundation. I don't, that's what I'm fighting for, is for my son, because I can't take a car to heaven. I can't take money to heaven. I said, but I can make sure that his soul goes to heaven.
Yeah.
I can make sure that I teach him correctly, so that he knows and creates a relationship with God. I don't want him to have a superficial routine. I don't want him to, just make it, oh, here we go, it's Sunday, or here we go, it's Tuesday. I want him to fully understand and ask me questions.
Yeah.
I want to not necessarily be a role model because I'm going to fail, but for him to understand that it doesn't matter what, that he can come to me and I will be as understanding as I can. But not only that, but I want him to go to God because he is in charge of everything. He can make anything, he is I just want him more than anything to have that
Opportunity.
Right. And it's my responsibility. God, not everybody can have kids. Not everybody, gets that opportunity to have kids. And to me, don't waste it. Don't waste it. Don't, just make sure that, you're the best person that you can be for your, for your kids. And so,
Yeah.
just keep going. Keep going.
That's good.
Oh,
one-
sister. Oh, sorry.
That just really brings out, the depth of the reality,
Yeah, because it's a blessing. God's literally a gift from God, and it's your responsibility. What are you going to do with that gift?
Yeah.
And don't waste it. Don't let them just ruin their lives. That's literally God giving you something, Not everybody gets that, So just don't let them go to waste. Don't, just try the best you can be and just make sure that you yourself have a foundation with God also, because if you don't have a foundation, you're the only hope that they have. If they don't have a father, if their father isn't in church, you're it. And for me, that's the only thing that keeps me, not the only thing that keeps me going, but it's definitely something that has helped, because I'm like, if I give up, that's it. That's it. I said, he doesn't have another person who's going to take him to church. I'm the one who brings him to church. I'm the one who makes him pray. And he prays for his food. I mean, he knows the word, amen. And, and I'm just, thankful. And I, ask God to cover him and, to help me be the best mom that I can be for him, and just to create a good, foundation for him. And so just,
Awesome.
Keep going.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Sister Tania, this was a huge blessing. I've been actually you said you were really excited just to do this, and I was
nervous at first. I told you, I was like, Isaiah, don't bring me, don't
well,
bring me.
I kept begging you, yo, come on, dude, we
I
should do your
know.
testimony. And honestly, we were supposed to record it yesterday,
Yeah.
but all the snow and this
was
and that,
awful.
and it's honestly, I knew there's gonna be something really special in this testimony.
Yeah.
And like honestly, like you've been a really big light for me, personally, to my family, my grandma especially. Like man,
Yeah.
I can't even explain that. Like,
I love your grandma.
but like your testimony and just you coming to church. I don't care how long it's been. You really like you've been a light for me. Like
Yeah.
honestly, in my family. Seriously, I can't explain that.
And
But-
it's and not only that, but for me, I even, I tell Pastor, I don't know where I fit in. I said, because I'm not as young as you guys.
Yeah.
I'm way old. Like, I'm older than all of you guys. But I'm also
I'm getting
not
there
as
too,
old
Tania.
as, I know, you're coming, man. You're
Getting
coming
there.
up. But I also don't fit in with, like, the adults, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But I do fit in with the adults because I'm a mom.
Yeah.
And I know what they've gone through and I
Yeah.
know what they deal with. But then I hang out with you guys and I'm like, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up with you guys.
You're 26, right?
25.
25.
She's
I'm
gonna-
going to be
25.
25 on Tuesday.
Dude,
yeah.
and you participate in game
And I
night,
try
like,
to. And
yeah.
I'm like, I'm
You
like,
know-
they're,
You know what that means, Tanya? We got to bring a bunch of people that are our age.
yeah.
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 Well,
And we'll find something.
dude, that's just like the maturity and like just you're 25 and participating in game night, dude. Like that,
Oh, yeah.
I respect that, and that
Yeah.
I that's a light for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Because there are some times I'm like, dude, I'm like too old to be doing
Yeah.
this. But at the same time, I'm like, if I don't do it, who else is going
Yeah.
to do it? I said, I
That's
have to
right.
be an example.
Yeah.
For the moms. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a mom, and I'm like, sometimes I have to bring Noelle, and, sometimes I'm like, come on, Noelle, don't get hit with the dodgeball. But,
Oh.
just, I don't care anymore. Like, I will come to game nights and I will play. I don't care. I don't care if I'm, trying to learn how to play dominoes or, over here playing dodgeball. This is where, why would I be anywhere else?
Yeah.
At least at church, I don't care if I'm praying in the back or if I I don't know.
Sister Tanya, one question. Do you
Yes.
drink coffee?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got a perfect thing you could drink coffee.
Perfect.
We want
Thank
to bestow
you.
you the
The
Testify
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 mug.
mug.
Oh,
Thank you
here
for
for
coming
it.
on here. We appreciate your testimony. And thank you for just being you. And we hope to maybe one day have a little bit more of your
Yes.
testimony or
Yeah.
to see how much more later on,
Oh,
how
yeah.
much you've grown.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I definitely want a part 2
yeah.
because there's definitely more testimonies coming from Tanya.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
There's definitely, I'm still growing, guys.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still growing.
Well, seriously, like
we are all.
I really hope God uses this just to help somebody
Yeah.
Yeah.
and help a young mother or anybody going through
Anybody,
Yeah.
the same thing.
But I personally, I really hope that your testimony would really help somebody though.
Yeah.
you
And
know,
I, even if it reaches one other
Yeah.
person, I don't, just come
Yeah.
as you are. It doesn't matter. God will convict you on your own time.
Yeah.
Nobody
That's
will
true.
say anything to you, Just come and hang out, come and play, come and just hang out. This is such a
Just
beautiful
have
place
fellowship.
to be. Yes.
Let's just talk about the things of God, what God's done, what
Yeah.
God's done in our lives. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. There are definitely some times where I'm out here until 10 o'clock and my brother's like, where are you at? And I'm like, I'm at church. He's like, still? I'm like, yeah.
That's
I'm
good.
still here. But it's the best thing ever, honestly.
That's right.
So
I'm
I
glad.
hope to be back here again.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, to wrap that up, goodbye everybody.